Hello TL Travelers, and welcome back to the TL Travel YouTube channel. If you are new here and just jumping into our content, I am right in the middle of taking you guys through our 6-month trip in South America, giving you guys tips and tricks and story times and fails as well. So if you have not already, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, hit that like button. And today we are going to be talking a little bit about the failure, success, that was our time in Uruguay. So leaving Argentina and Buenos Aires and heading over to Uruguay was actually pretty straightforward. We traveled through the daytime. We had no border issues or anything like that. A very lovely stranger fell asleep on Derek. We knew that contrast against our typical travels, South America was not gonna be like a huge beach destination, but we did want to try and get some nice beaches in where we could. And in my research, I had been told that La Paloma in Uruguay is like the place, the beach place to go. So for us, this was going to be our Valentine's Day getaway. I believe our first Valentine's Day together. So we decided to get a nice spot on the beach and just relax and enjoy the sunshine and the waves, and we were excited. But things took a weird turn. So throughout our journey, we had been sort of on this time schedule because we were on overnight buses a lot of the time, and because we were doing sandboarding and big day tours. We'd been getting up fairly early in the morning and going to bed fairly early at night. So we've been eating early along the way and those types of things. So when we got to Uruguay, we just wanted to take it easy and relax, but we were super tired. And one of the things that I'll get back to that, but one of the things that we noticed pretty quickly was that the beach, the city, everything was pretty empty. The first day that we were there was the day before Valentine's Day, so we just kind of went out and walked around and tried to scope out a place that we wanted to do our Valentine's Day dinner, but there was really only one place that was open, so we just kind of ate there and then called it a day. And then when we woke up on Valentine's Day morning, it turns out Valentine's Day that year was a Sunday. So again, not a lot of places were open. We just sort of had breakfast wherever was available. And then we went to the beach. Now, I don't want to take away from the coastline there at all. It is a beautiful area, beautiful region, but I will say that both of us sort of had these Southeast Asian style white sand beaches in our mind when we heard beach destination. And I know that that was wrong. I know that now. But when the only other real destinations that you have done beach travel in other than Southeast Asia are Mexico and the Dominican Republic, you have those beautiful white sand, crystal clear water beaches in your mind. You don't really think of how different the beaches will be. So the beach in La Paloma, at least at the time that we were there, was a little rockier than we had expected. The waves were a little bit more aggressive than we had expected. There was a bit of a garbage issue going on, and I know that depending on the tides and the seasons, that can change from place to place, but when we were there in February, those were sort of the things that we were noticing, and I don't know what it was about the area where we were staying, but there was a smell. The smell of fish was so strong. It was just so strong. I just could not. And normally I'm a pretty relaxed traveler, and something like that wouldn't even faze me. The views were still beautiful, it was still lovely to be out, but it was kind of a mix of, we'd been on the road for such a long time, I was so excited to get to the ocean, I had this image of an amazing beach destination in my head. It was Valentine's Day, things weren't coming together, so I was pretty bummed. And without getting into all of the nitty gritty details, I had a little bit of a meltdown just about the whole situation. Not only were the factors that I just mentioned at play, but at the same time, we still hadn't run into a lot of people who spoke English. We hadn't really seen a lot of other travelers on the road as of yet, and that was we weren't getting the same vibe, or the vibe that we were looking for from this trip that we had hoped. And I don't know, I was just sort of starting to feel down about it. Derek had mentioned the possibility of cutting our trip short and piecing out to Central America or somewhere that was a little bit more our speed. In hindsight, I'm so glad that we did not do that and we just pushed through the rough days. But yeah, when I think of Uruguay, I definitely think of that struggle. The biggest lesson learned though in Uruguay in regards to being bummed and all of these things, you know, like just not working in our favor was about the siesta. And if you've been, you know what I'm talking about. Going back to things not being open, we never considered the fact that the siesta period or break period in the middle of the day in Uruguay would be different than what we had already been experiencing. So when we were going out and looking for places to eat a little earlier in the evening, because we had been getting up so early, it's not that things weren't open because the city was dead. It was because things weren't open because it was siesta. And our final night in La Paloma, we decided to have a nap in the afternoon because we just kind of run out of things to do, and then have a late dinner. And when we came out of our hotel at like 7:30, the whole town was it was popping. There were street performers out, all of the restaurants were open, there was street foods and markets and all of the things, and it was like a whole other world, and just sort of like gave us that uplifting like feeling that we needed to really continue on and know that like, no, this was a little blip, but like the adventure is going to be so worth it. So I know that story was a little bit all over the place and a little bit short today, but it was something that I just wanted to share with you before we got back into the more nitty-gritty details of our adventures. I think that it is important not to glaze over the days that we had where things weren't necessarily going right or where I wasn't necessarily feeling right, because on a 6-month journey, you are bound to come across that at least once or twice where you just feel like giving up. But my words of advice to you, my tips for you is just don't. It's so worth the adventure, and every little blip, every little bump in the road makes you so much stronger. So if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a like, give it that thumbs up. Be sure to hit the subscribe button down below so that you can stick around and watch the rest of this series. And until I see you guys in my next video, stay great, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye guys.